we move closer and closer to a globalized, singularly powerful world, certain countries have been more influential than others. While the term superpower is regularly used as an attainable goal for countries like Brazil or India, the concept itself is not that well understood. So we wanted to know, what exactly is a superpower, and which countries fit the description? Well, overall, a superpower can be considered any state that has preeminent global influence. Any decisions, whether domestic or foreign, have far-reaching consequences, even outside of their immediate borders, allies, or enemies. This sort of hegemony is best characterized by 7 dimensions of power. Natural ones, such as geography, population, and resources, as well as social factors like economy, military, diplomacy, and national identity. These country traits have historically represented wide-reaching, dominant civilizations, such as ancient Egypt, the Mongol Empire, and the Roman Empire. However, the idea of a superpower is a 20th century classification and has farther-reaching implications than just regional dominance. World War II was one of the first major displays of global power, and the start of globalization through communication and economic cooperation, as we know it today. In the aftermath of the conflict, 3 major superpowers remained standing and collectively divided up the world. These were the United States, the Soviet Union, and the British Empire. On every level, these powers were at the top of the rankings, each controlling massive regions, with the British still wielding power over colonies around the world, and each holding onto a distinct cultural and national identity. However, in the mid-20th century, the British began to see their influence wane, while the US and USSR only grew, especially militarily. An event known as the 1956 Suez Crisis saw the British, among other nations such as Israel and France, invade Egypt in an effort to topple the country's president. Not only were they unable to, but they drew the ire of the United States and the United Nations, which demanded the British stop their invasion. Having been weakened militarily by World War II just a decade earlier, the British withdrew in a humiliating move that signaled an inability to maintain dominance on their own. This left the United States and the Soviet Union as the world's 2 remaining superpowers, and was the beginning of their fight for global hegemony in what was known as the Cold War. Over the next 50 years, the 2 proved their might. In land size, the USSR was the largest nation on Earth, while the US was the 4th largest. Their populations were comparable at around 250 million residents each. They were the top 2 economic powers, and while the Soviet Union had one of the largest militaries on Earth, the United States spent more than any other country by far. Perhaps most importantly, the 2 had absolute alliances around the world. The USSR had direct supportive relationships with Central and Eastern Europe, and much of Southeast Asia, including China. The United States was a predominant ally of Western Europe, the former British Empire, and was aligned with most of the world's largest economies. Ideologically, they represented a divide between capitalism and communism, with most of their allies falling into one group or the other. But in 1991, the Soviet Union officially collapsed, partially due to their efforts to defeat the United States, and partially due to internal corruption coupled with dramatic reforms that crippled its government. With the dissolution of the USSR, the United States reigned supreme, not just over the former Soviet Union, but the world at large. Militarily, the United States outspends all countries by an enormous margin, more than the next 8 biggest spenders combined. In short, the only remaining superpower on Earth is the United States. But that may be changing. Emerging economies, known as the BRIC nations, have seen unprecedented economic growth and population booms. Their countries have seen renewed influence, with China as a manufacturing giant, India with the 2nd largest population on Earth, Russia as a geopolitical manipulator, and Brazil as a soft power with immense natural resources. Additionally, the emergence of the European Union as a stable collective has raised the possibility that they will become the next superpower, similar to the United States, especially as the US has seen its international standing falter since the 2016 election. As the rest of the world sees breakneck growth, it may only be a matter of years until a new superpower emerges to rival the United States. With so much talking about the BRIC countries as potential next superpowers, it may be worth knowing just how powerful they are today. For a deep dive into Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, check out this video to the right. Thanks for watching Now This World, and please make sure to like and subscribe for new videos every week.